Armenia is one of the oldest countries in the world, and yet for most of its history, it has lived in the shadow of empires. Surrounded by powerful neighbors, this small nation has been invaded, divided, and ruled by others more times than almost any other. And yet, against all odds, Armenia is still here. The story of Armenia is not just about kings and battles. It is about survival. It is about a people who refuse to disappear, even when history seemed determined to erase them. This is the story of Armenia at the crossroads of empires and how it endured. To understand Armenia's survival, you first need to understand its geography. Armenia sits in the South Caucasus, a mountainous region where Europe and Asia meet. It lies on a plateau surrounded by towering peaks, most famously Mount Ararat, which has long been a symbol of Armenian identity. But this beautiful land was also a dangerous one because it stood between great powers. The Roman Empire to the west, the Persian Empire to the east, and later Byzantium, the Arabs, the Seljuks, the Mongols, the Ottomans, and the Russians all fought to control this strategic crossroads. Armenia was too important to ignore, but too small to dominate on its own. This is why its history is so turbulent, but also so remarkable. The story begins in antiquity. The kingdom of Urartu, which flourished in the early 1st millennium BCE, was one of the earliest states in the region. Its people built fortresses, developed irrigation systems, and left behind inscriptions in cuneiform. Many historians see Urartu as a precursor to Armenia, setting the stage for the Armenian identity that would later emerge. But Urartu eventually fell, and the Armenians, as an Indo-European people, rose in its place. By the 6th century BCE, Armenia was already known as a distinct land, mentioned by Greek historians and Persian records alike. One of the most powerful Armenian kingdoms arose under King Tigranes the Great in the 1st century BC. At its height, his empire stretched from the Mediterranean to the Caspian Sea, making Armenia a regional power. For a brief moment, it seemed like Armenia might escape the fate of being a pawn between empires. But the rise of Rome in the west and Parthia in the east soon put Armenia back in its familiar position, caught in the middle. Both Rome and Parthia recognized the importance of controlling Armenia, and for centuries they fought proxy wars by installing rival kings. Sometimes Armenia leaned west toward Rome, other times east toward Persia, but rarely was it free of outside influence. This tug-of-war continued under Rome's successor, Byzantium, and Persia's successor, the Sasanian Empire. Armenia became the prize in a long struggle between Christianity and Zoroastrianism, between the West and the East. In 301 CE, Armenia became the first country in the world to adopt Christianity as its official religion, a bold move that aligned it more closely with the West. But this decision also made it a target for Persia, which tried repeatedly to suppress Armenian Christianity. The Battle of Avarir in 451 is one of the defining moments of Armenian history. Led by Vardan Mamikonian, Armenians rose up to defend their faith against overwhelming Persian forces. They were defeated on the battlefield, but their resistance secured the right to practice Christianity, ensuring that their identity would not be erased. By the Middle Ages, Armenia was once again surrounded by new powers. The Arabs swept across the region in the 7th century, and Armenia became part of the vast Islamic Caliphate. Later, the Seljuk Turks arrived, followed by the Mongols, and then the Timurids. Each new empire left its mark, but Armenians adapted. They built new cities, founded monasteries, and preserved their culture even under foreign rule. The alphabet created by Mesrop Mashtots in the 5th century played a vital role in this survival. With their own script, Armenians could continue to write their history, translate their scriptures, and keep their identity alive, no matter who ruled over them. In the 11th century, the Bagratid Kingdom of Armenia fell, and the homeland came under constant pressure. Many Armenians migrated, settling in Cilicia on the Mediterranean coast, where they built a new kingdom that lasted for centuries. The Armenian Kingdom of Cilicia became a key ally of the Crusaders, showing once again how Armenians adapted to survive in difficult circumstances. Though that kingdom eventually fell to the Mamluks, the Armenian diaspora that spread across the Middle East and Europe became another pillar of Armenian endurance. Wherever Armenians went, they carried their culture, their language, and their faith. The early modern era brought even more challenges. Armenia was divided between the Ottoman Empire to the west and Safavid Persia to the east. For centuries, Armenians lived under these two rival powers, sometimes as respected traders and artisans, but often as second-class subjects. In the Ottoman Empire, Armenians were part of the millet system, which allowed them to practice their religion but marked them as different. In Persia, Armenians were resettled in new towns, including New Julfa in Isfahan, which became a thriving center of trade and culture. Once again, Armenians found ways to adapt, but they never forgot their homeland. The 19th century brought a new empire into the picture, Russia. Through a series of wars with Persia and the Ottomans, the Russian Empire gradually took control of eastern Armenia. For some Armenians, this was a relief, since Russia was a Christian power. Under Russian rule, new schools were founded, and Yerevan began to grow as a center of Armenian life. But the Western Armenians, still under Ottoman rule, faced darker times. The late 19th and early 20th centuries were marked by massacres and, ultimately, the Armenian Genocide of 1915, when over 1 million Armenians were killed or displaced by the Ottoman authorities. This was one of the greatest tragedies in Armenian history, and yet, once again, the Armenian people endured. The survivors rebuilt their communities in the diaspora, while a new Armenian state briefly emerged in 1918 before being absorbed into the Soviet Union. Under Soviet rule, Armenia experienced industrialization, education, and relative stability, but also repression and loss of independence. Yet, even within the Soviet system, Armenians preserved their culture. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, Armenia once again declared independence, continuing the cycle of resilience that has defined its history for thousands of years. What makes Armenia's story so extraordinary is not just its survival, but how it survived. Many nations in history have been conquered and disappeared. But Armenians held on to three key things: their Christian faith, their unique alphabet, and their strong sense of community, both at home and abroad. These cultural foundations proved stronger than any empire. They allowed Armenians to endure invasions, genocides, and forced migrations, and to still remain a people with a clear identity. Today, Armenia continues to face challenges. It is still surrounded by powerful neighbors, and its history continues to shape its politics. But the survival of Armenia through so many centuries is a testament to the resilience of its people. This small country at the crossroads of empires refused to vanish. Its mountains, its monasteries, its language, and its letters all stand as proof that identity can survive even the harshest storms of history. The story of Armenia at the crossroads of empires is not just about one nation. It is a reminder of how culture, faith, and memory can be stronger than swords or borders. It is a reminder that history is not only written by the conquerors, but also by those who endure. And as always, if this story has inspired you, I encourage you to research further for yourself. Dive into the works of Armenian historians, explore the monasteries that still stand on mountain slopes, or read the literature that has been passed down for centuries. The more you learn, the more you will see that Armenia's survival is not just a story of the past, it is a lesson for the future. Thank you for watching. Have you ever been to Armenia?